Am I the asshole for adopting the child my sister wanted to adopt? I, 34 male, have 2 sisters, Amy, 36 female, and Jane, 31 female. Amy and her husband have been trying to conceive for the better part of a decade, but nothing seems to be working for them. 2 years ago, they went for another round of IVF, but sadly, Amy miscarried once again. Due to complications following the miscarriage, she became sterile. This, of course, devastated her and her husband because they really wanted to start a family of their own. They are now looking into adoption, but it's been a long and slow process since Amy's husband has a criminal record from when he was 19. A year ago, my sister Jane gave birth to her son Sam. The pregnancy was the result of a one-night stand during Jane's vacation in Italy, and although it was unexpected and the father wouldn't be in the picture, Jane decided to keep the baby. Sadly, Jane had a stroke when Sam was 6 months old and passed away. It was very unexpected, and most of the family is still grieving. After the funeral, we started to discuss who will take Sam in. My parents were out of the question since they were too old and wouldn't be able to take care of him. So it was between Amy and I. Amy jumped at the opportunity and volunteered to take Sam in. And although this seemed to be the ideal solution at first, the way Amy spoke about the adoption didn't sit right with me. She wanted to change Sam's name and surname and asked us not to mention Jane around Sam after the adoption would be finalized. Essentially, Amy wanted to raise Sam as her own and didn't think telling him that his bio mom passed away would do him any good. To me, this felt like Amy was trying to erase Jane's memory and was treating her like some surrogate and not a sister whom she had also lost. After much consideration, I didn't like the idea that Sam would grow up without knowing who his bio mother was. And although I already have 5 children of my own, I decided to contest the adoption and volunteered to adopt him instead. We went to court, and it was recently determined that my wife and I would be adopting Sam. Amy is furious with me and is calling me an asshole for ruining her chances at becoming a mother. She is saying that I already have many children of my own, so I don't understand how badly she wants to become a parent. Some relatives are now calling me selfish for taking this chance away from Amy and are telling me that instead of thinking of what would be better for Sam, I was thinking about how to preserve the memory of Jane. Although I don't regret adopting Sam, I'm starting to doubt whether I made the right decision for his future. I know that Amy would have made a great mother and that both her and her husband would absolutely adore Sam. And as their only child, they would probably be able to provide him a better life financially. However, them wanting to erase all memories of Jane just doesn't feel right. Am I the asshole?
Am I in the wrong for outing my husband to his family and telling the truth about what he was doing whilst I was in labour? Story time. So I gave birth to my son about 10 weeks ago. I went through this exhausting period whilst I was close to my due date. I was experiencing the craziest discomfort. And you know, I just really wanted my husband there for whenever anything was going to kick off. I didn't know when I was going to go into labour. And I told him this. But he decided that it would be a better idea to hang out with his mates every night. They would go and watch all the football games till late at night. Like, I suggested playing those games and watching the games at our house just in case. But he was having absolutely none of it. He said they had certain, how can I describe it, rituals whilst watching the game. He just can't enjoy doing that at home or anywhere else. So the night of my son's birth, my water broke whilst he was at his buddy's house. I called him, I was like, hi, water is on the floor, water has broken, baby is coming. Are you? I told him to get home and take me to the hospital. He said he was coming. I waited for an hour and he never came. So I ended up having to call my sister. She only lives like 5 minutes down the road. And my husband showed up to the hospital 2 hours later. He would call every 10 to 15 minutes asking if I was still in labour. He was like, the game's nearly done, so I'll be over soon. What do you mean you'll be over soon? Now, he was able to make it just in time for our son's birth. But I was livid. I was furious. I was disappointed. He apologised profoundly. He apologised a lot. And he's been doing everything he can to regain my trust and my respect. He's otherwise very, very supportive and involved in our son's well-being and care. Babe, that is literally the job of a dad. Like, that's not something to praise. So last night we went round to my in-laws for the first time since having our son, and we were chatting and we got talking about like the birth story. This is so funny that I just carry on talking with my eyes closed. Like, am I even on screen? Anyway, and my husband starts to recall, you know, like the whole thing. He started lying about driving me to the hospital. He said that he was sat in the waiting room feeling so stressed and nervous but excited. He said it was really difficult standing on his feet for so long waiting. Which even if you were there, Steve, like, come on, read the room. I was confused and I'd had enough of his shit. I was like, is that really what happened, Steve? And he was like, yeah. I was like, oh, well, I remember it like this. I remember that you were in fact over at Dave's house watching the football and you refused to take me to the hospital, so my sister did. I actively went into labour whilst you were watching the game. Now, my mother-in-law, my mother-in-law Sandra, we love her so much. Love you, Sandy. She takes no shit from anyone, right? And I low-key am kind of scared of her. She started berating him left and right. At one point, he decided he was ready to leave. She was like, you can shut up and sit down. Everyone started howling because it was so funny that she was treating him like he was like 8 years old. Like, shame on you. This is not how I've raised my children to treat their wives. He didn't say anything to me on the way home. He went nuts at me, saying that I had made him look neglectful, that I should have just told them all that he was there the whole time. And I was like, but it's not good to lie, Steve. And he says, I hope that I'm proud of myself for causing a rift between him and his family.
A year ago today, I got cheated on. Let me tell you the story. I had a small part in a short film that was showing at a film festival in Ouray, Colorado, but I'm an actress, so I couldn't afford to go. I was, however, exclusively and with clearly communicated boundaries dating a man. Oops. I sat at dinner with that man in Dallas the night before the festival was supposed to start in Colorado, and I was talking to him about how sad I was to be missing it, how all my friends, co-stars were going to be there, and he says, well, do you want to go? And I said, yeah, good listening skills. That's kind of what I'm saying. He says, okay, I'll pay your way. I said, what? A piece of medium rare salmon fell from my mouth, hit the table. I said, why? He said, well, it's your first festival. You should be able to go. I'll buy you a plane ticket right now, and I'll put you up at a really nice hotel. Shout out the Western. I said, huh. I blew hot fish breath in his face, incredulous that anyone would care deeply enough about me to do me such a kindness. So I said, do you want to go? And he said, no, I have to stay and work. And I said, okay, thank you. So the next day, I'm on a plane to Colorado, and then the day after that, I'm on top of a mountain in Colorado, and then the day after that, I was crying myself to sleep alone in Colorado because I found out that he had just sent me out of town so he could reactivate his Hinge profile and try to match with one of my good friends whom he had met, because she subsequently sent me screenshots of his active profile on which he had drastically lied about his age and liked her horniest pic. So I called him, I broke up with him, I cried, I drank, I threw up, and then I made a video about it. And that video went kind of viral as far as my account was concerned at the time. A lot of people saw it, a lot of people liked it, a lot of people hated it. A lot of people commented on it, and one person commented in particular, and then that person followed me, started to respond to my stories here and there. I didn't see it for a while because I was stuck under the thumb of the anxious attention of the internet, a whirlpool of my own making. But one day I did see it. And what's even crazier is I laughed. That never happens. So I responded back, and then he responded back, and then we started chit-chatting. Then we started talking, we started texting, we started seeing each other face to face, sitting side by side, touching hands, touching lips, touching, And now here I am, a year later, deeply and wholeheartedly in love with that guy. And he's in love with me, which is suspicious. So I just got back from that same film festival in Colorado yesterday, but this time I didn't have a small role. I had a starring role. And this time I didn't cry my way through the trip. I laughed my way through the trip because he was next to me the entire time, cheering me on. And it's just crazy because it all happened because one jerk treated me like I was dispensable, and I decided to say something about it. So I guess I'm just making this video to let you all know that one thing about me, I'm going to keep yapping.
Please make sure that you read your wedding invitation card the next time that you're invited to a wedding, because it's going to tell you where to go, what to wear, and whether or not you have a +1. Because if you don't have a +1, and the bride and the groom have not green-lighted you bringing somebody, you shouldn't bring somebody to their wedding. Okay, I was just at a black tie wedding, and 2 people decided to break this rule. And the 2 people they brought were their young children, who ended up ruining parts of the wedding, literally ruining it. If you read the card, you would have seen it said, please no young children. But they wanted to anyway. Because they were close with the bride and the groom? No. They were sitting at the table just before me, and I was all the way in the back because I barely knew the bride and the groom. They were random, bringing their kids, probably because they couldn't get a babysitter, but if you couldn't, and they said not to bring them, you probably just shouldn't have gone. Or you could have tried harder to find somebody to watch them. But during the first dance song, your kid First lady, lady number one, your kid was kind of restless and wanted to get up because it seemed like he might enjoy the song. It was a little bit of an upbeat song that they danced to, and you were trying not to have him get up, but you were also recording a video while distracted talking to your friends. Well, your kid did get up, and he walked onto the dance floor in the middle of their moment. And they're like not really laughing. They're doing the awkward sort of laughing, waiting for somebody to pull their child away. Because first of all, why is this young child here? They're waiting for you to go up there and get him, but no. The bride's mother has to go up there and pick this child up and carry them off of the dance floor. And they restarted the song. Very, very awkward. And then, at the very end of the night, people like to do a sparkler send-off. It's something common that I've seen happen more often. People line a row, you get sparklers, and you light them, and they'll run down, and they'll kiss in the middle. Well, lady number two, your kid during this, was kind of panicked by all the flames. Maybe he didn't like it, because he's a young child, probably sensory overloaded. But you had to hold your sparkler out there, so he's holding a sparkler out there, and as the bride and the groom run by, they stop right in front of him. And what does he decide to do? Oh, I'm gonna stick it out and try and touch them. Try and touch them with the sparkler. And the bottom of the bride's dress, yep, you heard it right, the bottom of the bride's dress, a little bit of fire. Thankfully, there was a bucket of water right by because we all have sparklers, and we know that afterwards we should properly discard them. But your child does not properly discard those and puts it in the grass. So while they're putting out the flame on the bride's dress, a little patch of the grass starts to burn as well, which we quickly put out, which wasn't as big of a deal. But so far, these two children who aren't supposed to be here ruined a first dance song and ruined the bride's dress, which again, I don't know much about weddings, but I know that my mom still has her wedding dress, so I'm sure the bride is not very happy. And if you read the wedding invitation card, it would have shown you that you didn't have a +1 and that no kids were allowed.
Story time on how a creepy man was following me and my friends at the mall. So this was about a year ago, like close to a year ago now, but it still like haunts me to think about. It was like so creepy. So me and my friends wanted to go shopping one day, so we decided to go to the mall that we usually do. And keep in mind, I've been going to this mall since I was like little and nothing bad has ever happened. So I don't really remember what store it was. I think it was Cotton On or something, but me and my friends were just casually shopping in Cotton On. And my friend told me, she's like, this guy has been following us and he's creepily staring at us. And I see this guy and I'm like, I don't remember seeing him anywhere. Like, how long has he been staring at us? Like, has he been following us for? And by the way, this was like the third store that we went into, so I didn't think that like, I hadn't seen anyone coming. And to be honest, at first, me and my other friend, because I was with two other girls, we thought that she was joking because it just seemed like a joke. We didn't think that somebody was actually following us. And when we looked and turned at the guy, he just seemed like a normal guy. I mean, he had like a bucket hat and like he was just like looking around. We just thought she was joking or something. But one of the girls, well, the first girl that told us, I'm gonna call her Stella, she was so dead serious. Like, I looked at her and she was like, I'm actually getting creeped out. And I asked her, like, why didn't you tell us before? And she was like, oh, I just thought it was a coincidence that he was going to the same stores as us. And for people that know me, know that I do not take these things lightly. So I literally asked Stella, I was like, I think that, you know, if you really think that he's following us, then we should go tell the workers or one of the mall guards. But then Stella tells me that he's not really doing anything like super bad. He might just be like looking, or possibly it might just be a coincidence. So we all decided that it might be a good idea to just wait and like feel things out, because we can always go to mall security where we're inside the mall. It's not like this was an outside mall. But we soon realized that Stella's tuition and what she was thinking was actually right, because the next at least 5 stores that we went into, he was always there. And even in Sephora, and he wouldn't go and like actually look around. He would like go down the aisles and like slowly follow us, and we knew it. And just to try to take him off our minds a little bit and see if like he would still follow us, I decided to go to like this Starbucks that's like in the middle of the mall. It's not like in its own little area. It's like dead in the middle of the mall. Like that's it, in the middle of the mall. So I decided like to go stop there, because like if he really decides to go and stop there, then we actually have a serious problem. So we go in there, and guess what? He goes into the Starbucks line. So at this point, I'm like, okay, no, this is actually scary as hell. So I don't go up to him. I don't say anything to him, because I'm not trying to start or get him mad or anything, accuse him of anything. So at this point, me and my friends get scared. So we back off the Starbucks line, and we decide to go to like up to the I can't speak, but we decided to go to the food court area where the guards are, like where you can like ask for help or like if you have concerns. So we go to that little office. This is the first time I ever had to go in that area since I was like a child. I've never had to go in there. But unfortunately, the story does not stop there. As we were walking, because keep in mind, we were like in the middle, but you have to take an elevator or take the escalator up to even get to the floor to talk to the guards. So at this point, we're all scared shitless. And I'm just telling everyone, like, calm down. Like, I know we're scared, but it's better to stay calm in these types of situations. So we're walking up the stairs. I mean, we're not walking up the stairs. We're trying to walk a little faster. I'm like, guys, just speed walk a little bit, but don't be too obvious and don't look back. So we start to speed walk, and guess who else starts to speed walk? The guy. So I'm like looking back, but not in a super, like, I'm doing it in a subtle way, and I'm like, oh shit. So we actually at this point are like running to the guard's office, and he speeds up so fast. Like, I'm not even kidding you. He was making it so obvious. And once we saw the guard start to speed up, we were like, all right, we have to get there like now. Like, we did not know what this guy had, and he was just getting really sus. And keep in mind, we decided to take the escalator instead of the elevator because just for common sense reasons. And at this time, we were about like 10 stores down from the escalator, because we would have gone to the closer escalator, but that escalator had been closed, ironically. So at this point, the guy is just acting really sus. He's like starting to reach into his pockets. And at this point, we thought that he had been recording us, because a couple of times, I forgot to mention this other story, but like he would like whip out his phone, which is, you know, when someone's recording you. So he was recording us, and it was really creepy. So me and my friends at this point are seriously running. We spare no time. We run up that escalator, and we're like running down to the food court. And it was such a busy day, so we were like pushing through all these people, and they thought we were like running from the cops probably. So as we're like running to the food court area, I guess he kind of knew like what we were doing, like what our plan was. So as we keep looking back, we realize that he just is not following us anymore, but we are at this point just still running, because we didn't know, like, okay, maybe he took a shortcut, we didn't know. So we still just go to the guard's office anyways. And when we get into the guard's office, it was like a little office area. I had never been in there, so I didn't know like what to expect. But we're going in there, like literally pushing through people, and I'm like, listen, like this guy is following me and my friends. And then they're like asking us, they're like, okay, calm down, like what's going on? And I'm honestly perfectly fine. My two other friends were a little stressed out, but I was like, all right, guys, we have to remain calm, or these people are just, the guards are not going to know how to help us. So I tell the officers basically what happened, and they're asking us questions like, all right, did he say anything to you? Because I guess they were trying to find a reason where they had like reasonable like proof. I don't know. I forget the word, and I literally took AP Gov this year, but he was just like asking us questions like, okay, like, did he touch you? Was he saying anything to you? And he wasn't saying anything to us, but I was literally telling him, like, the guy was literally chasing us down. And I'm like asking the guards and everything, I'm like, don't you guys have like hella cameras in this mall? Like, can somebody just check them and tell us what's going on? Like, find the guy at least. So like the main officer that we had been talking to the whole time told me that they were gonna at least like try to find the guy in the mall to like question him or something, to like ask him like if he was following us. I don't know. So long story short, there wasn't much the guards could do. Like, they literally told me like there's not a lot we can do, especially since he didn't like do like, he wasn't like full on harassing, and also they couldn't even find him. So when the main guy told me like he had sent out people like guards to find the guy, like we described him in the best way we could, they told us that they couldn't find him. So I guess the stalker, the creepy man, like knew what we were doing, and he like ran when he could. I don't know, but I was so pissed off. And now that I think about it, there's so much, especially in like today's day and age, whatever, that he could have done us. I mean, he could have been like a trafficker or even worse. Like, I don't know what he was doing, and honestly, like, thank God we got out of that situation totally uninjured. But yeah, we went home that day, like we all went home perfectly safe and everything, and they told me that they never found the guy, because the guy told me if he had like actually done something like super bad, like hurt us or something, then like they could probably find him, but he didn't really, like, he was just following us. But that is honestly just a lesson to always stay with a friend, use the buddy method, and to always be aware of your surroundings. Yeah, and for the girls or people like in my comments touching me like, oh, why didn't you go to Victoria's Secret, or why didn't you go into this store? Girl, it doesn't matter. Either way, he was going to follow us, even if we went into the store. At that point, we knew he was following us, so going into different stores or the bathrooms would not be a safe option, especially because if we go into the bathroom, he could be waiting outside. I just feel like that would have been a worse option, honestly. But yeah, this is going to be the finished look. Stay tuned for more story times, because I have so many more like this in words. So yeah, love you guys. Bye.
Am I in the wrong for telling my mum she's going straight into a nursing home whilst my dad is going to live a life of luxury? Story time. So, I have never really had a very good relationship with my mum. We'll call her Sandra. She's a very vain, superficial, and very materialistic woman. That's just not my vibe. In all honesty, I do not see what my dad sees in her at all. I can tell you the exact moment as to when I stopped caring about my mum. So when I was 13, I was riding my bike and I got into an awful accident. I basically got hit by a car. One of the worst injuries I got was on my face. I had a really, really bad scar. It would take cosmetic surgery to fix and rectify. And as soon as I recovered from like the other physical injuries, my mum really started to push me to have this surgery. I had not so great of a time in hospital and I was just far too anxious to go back. But fortunately, my dad put his foot down and was like, when she's ready to have the surgery, she can have the surgery, but she's not doing it till she's ready. Slay dad. My dad reminded me every day that I was still beautiful. Later in life, I would find out that my mum had told my brothers to make me feel ugly for my scar so that I could get the surgery quicker. And if I ever had a hard time at school because of it and kids were making fun of me for how I looked, my mum would be like, well, you know how to fix it. Because of the type of job that my dad had, he wasn't seeing much of this go on. He could never really shield me from my mum's opinions. But when he finally found out what had been going on, he lost his shit. And he even threatened to divorce my mum. Slay number 2 for dad. Eventually, I caved and I ended up getting the surgery. During my recovery time, my mum got invited to her best friend's wedding. The whole family was invited, but she only took my brothers because she still believed I was too ugly whilst I still was recovering from the surgery. She didn't believe that I'd be pretty enough to be involved in the wedding pictures. And from that day, I literally hated my mum. Didn't want her involved in any big moments in my life. So me and my husband just bought our first house, and like in the garden, it's like a little garage type thing which has a bedroom, a bathroom, a little living room and a kitchenette, and this is where I intend for my dad to be able to live one day. And when my mum saw the house, she made every single complaint she could. She said that she was going to require one of the bedrooms in our house, and I looked at her and I was like, why do you think that? Like, why do you even think you're gonna have like a little sleepover for one night, let alone like stay with me? He was like, what do you mean? I said, why do you think I'd have you in my house and I wouldn't find the cheapest care home I could find and put you in there? Mother was absolutely shocked. And at that moment, I got to tell her all of the crappy stuff. So fired up today. At that moment, I finally told her how much of a crappy parent she was. And unless her beloved sons are going to pamper her in her old age, she will be left on the streets in an adult diaper. Now my brothers are calling me daily, telling me how much of an insensitive arsehole I am. Inconsiderate arseholes. They say I should forgive her past mistakes. But personally, I'm not really too sure what I've done wrong here. But yeah, please do let me know what you think about all of this in the comments.
I think I'm the worst heartbroken person ever. I hear people like going through breakups and they still like go to work and kind of live a semi-functional life. And I think about any memory of me being heartbroken. It's the most pathetic shit. If you're down bad right now, let me ease you, because maybe you're down bad. No one is more of a fucking loser than me. Anyway, here's one. When my ex-boyfriend dumped me, my last boyfriend before I met my husband, which he had to do in a brutal way because I wouldn't stop showing up at his work drunk. Would you show up at his work? Well, it was easy because his work was down the street from my house. So if I was like pre-drinking at my house or whatever and I got a little too drunk, it's just like, oh, I'm at his work again. It's honestly a little concerning. Sometimes I'd arrive there and be like, whoa, am I pulling this shit again? Yup. Walk in, crying, fully sat restaurant. I have like a letter in my pocket. I'm like, read the letter. Anyway, but one day, appropriately, he had to sit me down and be like, get the fuck out of my life and out of my work. Psych. I also worked there. Also, you know what? He did something that pissed me off. I'll say that in another video. So I stopped showing up drunk, but then I realized he passes my house every day to get to work. So I started thinking like, when does he go to work? And I was like, I don't have to guess. I work at the sister restaurant. I'll just look at the schedule. At around 5 o'clock every day, you're just walking out your front door, pretending to put mail in the mailbox, or go to the convenience store, pack a smoke. Do this like a lot. And I never see his car go by and I'm like, this is insane. Like, I'm outside. Obviously he's taking a different route. And then I realized, oh, my bedroom window faces the intersection. It's turning off. If he's diverting somewhere, I could just see that from my bedroom window. What am I thinking? Like, what's gonna happen? Okay, he turned this way. So what? What are you gonna do? You're gonna go stand there and be like, what, wearing like a wedding dress? Clue what I was fucking thinking. I guess I thought like if he saw me outside, I don't know. Anyway, in the mornings when he'd work his brunch shift, there's me staring out the window like this. And one day I'm staring out the window, my phone starts ringing. I'm like, oh, and it's my friend. And she's like, hey. And I'm like, hey. And she's like, why are you staring out your window? And why do you look so sad? I'm like, oh my God, you can see me? And she's like, yeah, like perfectly clear. Like my head was pretty much out the window. I was like this, looking at every car. And then a couple weeks later, I go to a work event and my ex shows up and he's driving a completely different car, which begs the question, how many times did this new car that I didn't recognize walk by and see me pretending? I looked like an animatronic robot. Like I looked like the robots in Shrek that were at like Duloc, just putting fake mail in a mailbox like this, like going to the convenience store while staring out the window at his car. He's probably driving by every day being like, what the fuck is this loser doing? I was right to dump her. It's crazy. I told this story on my podcast, and then I posted that podcast clip on my podcast TikTok, and all the comments are like, this is insane. This is fucked up behavior. This isn't a brag. I know that. But what was it all for if I can't help someone who's down bad? Nothing. Why the hell would that be a brag? Do you think I'm on crack? Anyway, you're probably not that pathetic. And if you are, stop it, because they don't come back until you disappear. Okay.
Will I be the astronaut if I canceled my daughter's wedding vendors right before her wedding? All looking for some advice and using a throwaway since my daughter, let's call her Stacy, is occasionally on Reddit. Stacy and I had an on-off relationship over the years that's been stressed at the best of times and zero contact at the worst. A year ago, we had a big reconciliation, and as a show of good faith, I agreed to help her pay for her upcoming wedding. The photographer, catering, and cake supplier are all in my name and on my card to the tune of more than $10,000 total. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, and we had another one of our huge fights. Not sure the reason is important, and Stacy basically told me directly to my face that I am uninvited from the wedding, and she doesn't want me to be there or in her life anymore. She's been overly dramatic before, but this sounded more serious. I, maybe an overreaction of my own, called the photographer and caterer. Now that we're so close to the wedding date, most of my payments are almost completely non-refundable, and I can only get a few $100s back of what I've paid at this point. I'm not going to argue that. The vendors have contracts and policies, and they deserve to be paid. It's a sunk cost for me at this point. Basically, my question is, will I be the astronaut if I called the photographer, food, cake people back and told them to keep the money but not show up to the wedding? If Stacy is really permanently cutting me out of her life, I don't see why I should help her have the day of her dreams if I am uninvited from her wedding and her entire future. Just wondering if that's being super petty or if there's some rationale to, hopefully, teaching her to be a better person in the future. Edit! Since many of the responses seem to think the reason behind our fight is very relevant, Stacy and I were arguing about details regarding the food for the wedding. I believe that I should have a say, considering that I am paying for it all. We disagreed, and I said something along the lines of not wanting her to screw up this wedding like I screwed up the wedding with her mother, my now ex-wife. Her mother has always been very close with Stacy, especially when Stacy and I were no contact, and Stacy blew up on me since I have never directly insulted her mom to Stacy's face. Is that insulting her? That's the background, though I'm still not sure how it affects the current decision of canceling the vendors or not. Edit 2, it still seems to need clarifying. Just because I said daughter does not mean that I, too, am a woman. I am Stacy's father.
Am I wrong for being disrespectful and telling my parents good luck with that when they tried to ground me? I live at home while going to university. I'm in my final year and I have a job lined up after I graduate. My parents have been charging me rent since I was 16. I have a small company that makes me about $60,000 a year. I started it in high school. It was one of the reasons I graduated early from high school and why I got attention from recruiters. My parents said that since I was earning adult money, I could take in adult responsibilities. I thought that was fair, so I paid for all of my stuff starting at age 16, not university. I got a scholarship, and the rent they charged me was a minor $300 a month. But I basically considered the room to be completely mine after that. I kept it tidy because I like it that way, but they had no say for when I cleaned it, for when I did my laundry, other than to not do it at a time where it would disturb my family. I bought food for myself and ate it when I wanted. They tried to say I was separating myself from the family, but I saw it more as having my own schedule. This year for spring break, I went down to Mexico with friends. My parents were upset because they were hosting a big Easter family get-together. When I got back, they said I was behaving badly for not being around for a family gathering. I said it was my last spring break in university and that I was not responsible for their schedule. They said I was grounded and I laughed and said good luck with that. I went to my room and locked the door. They tried banging on it for attention, but I'm done. My grandfather came over to talk to me. He is the one who helped me get the company started and he is always there for me. He said that I was rude to my parents when they were trying to be there for me. I asked him how much rent he charged my mom when she lived at home. He said it was ridiculous to think he would charge his kids rent. I told him that I had been paying rent for 4 years. He went into the house and I heard a fight. When he came out, he said that I need to treat my parents with more respect, but that since they are my landlords, they do not have a say over how I spend my time. I'm avoiding my parents for now, and I'm renting an Airbnb right now until I graduate. It took everything that was important to me, and I left $600 for the last 2 months I had planned on being there. They keep calling me, but I'm currently getting ready to move for a new job. I don't have the energy to deal with them.
Am I the astronaut for telling my wife that it was her fault? My wife and I recently adopted a 1-year-old baby boy. I also have a 14-year-old daughter from a previous marriage. My daughter has made it clear that she hates my son. She will not babysit no matter what. Yesterday, my wife had to go grocery shopping and my daughter went with her because she needed something. While they were there, my wife needed to go to the bathroom. She asked my daughter to watch my son for a few minutes while she went to the bathroom, but my daughter refused. My wife told her that she doesn't have an option. She wasn't asking her. She was telling her to do this. My daughter told her that she leaves the baby with her. She's going to leave the baby alone. My wife said, "Don't you dare do that," and left our son with her to go to the bathroom. She returned to find the baby alone, and my daughter was nowhere to be seen. It was a miracle that nothing happened to him. She later found my daughter back in the car, and they had a terrible fight. When I came home from work, my wife told me everything. I told her that she made a mistake by leaving the baby with her when she told her she would leave the baby alone. I mean, we both know my daughter. When she says she will do something, then she absolutely will do it. So I told my wife that it was really her fault. She started yelling at me, saying, "How dare I blame her and not my daughter?" I told her that I will have a conversation with my daughter and punish her, but she's just a kid, and my wife is the one responsible for the baby. She called me an ass.